everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. I love that smokiness of fireside, is so good, so good. That lapsang and combination of organic herbs and whatnot I put in it is just, it's really good, really good. Anyways, guys, I hope you have your tea or possibly a cup of me this morning, hanging out, relaxing with me, talking tech, talking video, talking photo, whatever. Today is going to be a Canon day. And Canon understands what is going on with the market, and they put out some information discussing it. Obviously, the camera market currently is looking bleak. It's not like it used to be years ago, where they were able to just pull in a ton of money, right? Massive harvests of grain, okay? That's all gone. It's just simply not there anymore, and all of the companies are feeling it, and they're having to change things. Well, Canon talks about it a little bit, and I want to talk to you guys about it and get your thoughts. What do you think is going to be going on? Anyways, before I get into it, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded my ebook yet, go check it out over at JCristina.com/ebook. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook. 10 tips at making tack sharp images, something for amateurs, pro-ams, as well as professionals. You're going to get something from it. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook. So, back into Canon. Now, there was a couple of things that came out, and a lot of it was from the general manager of Image Communication Business Division, is who this guy was from. Now, one of the things that he said was that Canon will be shrinking camera production, sales, as well as product lineups going forward. Now, we don't see that as of yet. It seems like they're just ramping forward, especially with their mirrorless line, right? With all of the EOS R series. Now, obviously, what this means is we're going to start seeing a slowdown, a shrinkage, a reduction in production and in the number of models is what we think will end up happening. Now, also in an interview with this general manager, he indicated something that was very interesting, and we talked about this at the time that the R5 was released. And what he said was basically the 8K that was thrown into the R5 was, as he said, originally put in to beat the competitors to that spec. We said that was why Canon was doing it. At the time, I said, if they actually make that happen and put 8K into a R5 or any R series body and do not vent it, the thing is going to overheat. And that's basically what ended up happening. All right. And they had a lot of negative press because of the overheating issues. They probably shouldn't have done it. They should have put 6K in it and then maybe sampled it down to 4K or whatever. But they put 8K out there, and it's actually working. Now, can you run it all day long? Absolutely not. You would need some type of fan. You need an inlet and an exhaust to be able to take all that heat out of the camera, which they currently do not have because it is weather sealed. So it kind of is what it is, but that was the rationale behind it, and now it is out there, and they definitely said this is the reason. We wanted to beat the market to that specific spec, and they did. Canon did that also, if you remember way back when, with the Canon EOS 5D Mark II. They ended up bringing that thing out, and it was a game changer. Why? Because now all of a sudden people were able to shoot cinematic video with any old lens, any old EF lens, could be 50 years old, could be adapted Zeiss, whatever you want, with a full frame camera. And there was a lot of movies that started being made with some of those Canon 5D Mark IIs. There was shows on TV that were filmed with those cameras. So it was very interesting that time. And this is what exactly happened here with the EOS R5. Once again, they brought that 8K to market first. This is what Canon does. They love that kind of stuff. Now, as a point of reference, Canon indicated that they see that the market will be dropping below 10 million units of cameras sold, most likely this year, maybe even below 8 million units. Now, as a point of reference, right around 2010, I believe it was, they were seeing a sales of about 121, 125 million units sold per year. That is crazy, guys, right? 120, over 120, let's call it 125 million cameras sold. Now, that's in the course of the last 10 years. We're down to most likely going to be under 10 million, from 125 million to 10 million. A massive shrinkage is what has happened. And a lot of that shrinkage happened due to smartphones. When the smartphones came out, we can see this immediate decline in the number of camera sales. Why? Because the majority of the cameras that were being sold at the time were point and shoots. Now, why was that? Well, basically, those smartphones took absolutely horrendous photos. But we saw what happened as time went on. Those photos became better and better and better, and the cameras in those smartphones became better and better and better. Better resolution, better megapixels, right? Better low light capacity. They still suck, but they're getting better. And a lot of this bettering, let's call it, is due to AI. Artificial intelligence, internal processing of the images. Not that the camera sensors in these phones are getting that much better, but they're able to process the data that they're acquiring with such a small sensor and be able to make it into something that is, quote, good enough. And that is what has been the theme for the last 4 or 5 years. Good enough. Is this good enough? Is that good enough? We don't want anything stellar. We don't want anything spectacular. We want good enough. Now, smartphones, I think, are going to continue, obviously, eating into camera sales and eventually have those point and shoots go the way of the dinosaur or the dodo bird, as I always say. All right. We saw, I think it was 15.9 million cameras sold in 2019. Let me bring up a chart for you guys. All right, here you can see it. Now, this chart comes from Statista.com, and you can see digital camera sales dropping by 87% since 2010. This only depicts camera sales from 2010 to 2019, so we don't see that reduction that hit in 2020 as of yet. But I would venture to say that's probably about 10 million units or maybe 11 million units for 2020, so it's even worse. But if we just look at this alone, we can see the blue and the red. The blue is cameras with built-in lenses. So that would be your equivalent to a point and shoot. Whereas the red is cameras with interchangeable lenses. So those are your ILCs. So those could be DSLRs or they could be mirrorless. It doesn't make a difference. But now look at what is happening here. What a massive disparity between the DSLRs or ILCs and those point and shoots. Look at that reduction. We see a massive decline when it comes to the point and shoots, whereas a relative loss in sales when it comes to your DSLRs or any of your ILCs, including mirrorless. So I think that is very important information to see where the market is going and where these camera manufacturers are going to have to spend their time. And point and shoot is obviously not it. Now, we can see that trend as of 2018 was the first time that DSLRs outsold point and shoots. That is ever in 2018. And now that continues to be the fact going forward. DSLRs or ILCs are outperforming point and shoots, which is crazy, guys, considering the price difference. Okay. It's a massive price difference. You can get a point and shoot for a couple $100 where you're going into an ILC for $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000 or more. So I think that is something to think about. Now, I think this is also going to be consistent moving forward as we go into 2021, 22. I think that we're going to see that continuous decline to null when it comes to point and shoots. I think that is just inevitable. As camera phones, as the smartphones become better and better at producing images, there's no reason for people to carry a point and shoot in their pocket when they have a, quote, good enough camera in their phone. right? It just doesn't make sense. People just don't do it. Whereas years ago, they did. Why? Because the pictures were much better with the point and shoots in comparison to the phones, and that is not the case any longer. Now, Canon's general manager also indicated that Canon will be, quote, accelerating all slimming down of business development, production, sales systems, product lineups, etc., in continued preparation for those low shipment numbers. They are predicting an under 8 million unit camera sales for the 2021 year. So what is that number going to be? It might be 8 million units sold. It might be 7, maybe even 6 million cameras sold. Canon is predicting it, and they're taking heed of it, and they're doing what they need to do to stay afloat. They're seeing that point and shoots aren't doing it, and they are not going to be concentrating on them as much. And to that vein, they continue by saying that Canon will focus on the segment that has shown the most resilience. That is ILCs or DSLRs, mirrorless, whatever you want to call them, but not point and shoot. And they also said that they're going to be expanding further development in the video equipment area. Why is that? Because as I've told you guys in the past, video is the future. All right. Everyone is doing video. Photo is all great, but video is even better. Why is that? Well, because as time goes on, we're going to see more and more cameras be able to capture video and then pull out photos that are good enough. Video is something that I think everyone should learn. I don't care if you're a photography person that does professional photography. Today, we need to be hybrid shooters, as I always say. You need to know photo, you need to know video, and you need to know how to do them both, at least well. You don't have to be an expert at both, but at least understand both, because that is where we're going, and Canon makes note of it here. They also said, which I found was interesting, is they're going to continue creating, let's say, or test creating these cameras that are very unique, like they did with the PowerShot Zoom. All right? The PowerShot Zoom was this weird-looking camera. They came out with it, I think it was December 2020, and it did relatively well. All right. It wasn't a GoPro, but it was a very small handheld camera that was unique, and they sold a bunch of it. Now, they did the same thing in 2019 with that Inspect REC or whatever. It was very low cost. It was something that was extremely unique, but it didn't sell as well. So I think that by them saying that they were going to go down this line of testing out, quote, unique cameras, I think is probably pretty smart for them. Because who knows when you're going to stumble upon like a GoPro, all right? And create a camera that is as widely known or widely purchased as a GoPro. You just don't know. So you have to constantly be innovating and creating new ideas when it comes to imaging. Doesn't matter if it's photo or if it's video, you need to constantly be on the edge. And that's what they're saying that they're going to do here. They did solidify this by saying that they're going to be putting as much time into their ILCs, like in R5, as they are in these conceptual cameras and their video. So they're starting to diversify a little bit, and I can see point and shoots starting going away. All right. Now, what is the bottom line with all of this stuff, right? Where do we go with all this? And is all of the camera manufacturers affected by what's going on? And the bottom line is, of course, yes. The number of camera sales are down horrendously, and it is going to take a toll on all camera manufacturers. As we saw with Olympus, they couldn't do it any longer. Obviously, you have a camera manufacturer that's been around for nearly 100 years that ends up going and selling off their camera division because there's just not enough money in it, and they didn't move from Micro Four Thirds. They stuck with that, and it ended up being a problem. Whereas you see Panasonic went from Micro Four Thirds, which they still make with their GH line, but they went into the S line, right? And that helped them out a lot. If they were still only doing Micro Four Thirds, maybe Panasonic would have been selling off their camera division also. Why? Because these smaller cameras or smaller sensor cameras are just slowly going away. Smartphones are taking over. Now, we see that the point and shoot market is basically history. That would be point number one. They are going away. All right. Not necessarily this year, but in the, let's say the next 4 or 5 years, point and shoot is going to be just about gone, in my personal opinion. Also, what we understand is Canon knows that a unique camera could be something as valuable as an R5. And they are going to continue down that path, patenting new and developing new cameras that are extremely unique. So that's kind of cool to see what Canon does in the future. Also, what we know is that Canon understands that video is massive. Video is extremely important today. More important than it was 5 to 10 years ago. Even when they came out with the Canon EOS, the 5D Mark II, when it was a revolution, that was a revolutionary camera, video is even more important today. That being said, they're going to be putting a lot of money into video production, right? Video cameras that can be used maybe as hybrids. As I've said, hybrids are who we are today. So a lot of times we look at cameras based on what their video specs are, which we would never have done years ago, right? You would buy a camera, you'd be able to know what is the megapixels, how does it do in low light situation, what is that signal to noise ratio, how good does it do, right? What does the noise look like? Is it really grainy? Is it good? How high can it shoot? ISO, right? This type of thing, okay? Now it's like, does it do 8K? Does it do 4K? Is it sampling 6K to give you 4K? Is it doing 4K to give you, what is it doing? It's all about the Ks, right? Instead of the megapixels. What is it shooting? And how well does it do it? Does it overheat? Does it have 2 card slots? Okay, there's a lot of things that are going into the questioning of purchasing new cameras that wasn't a question years ago. All right, and Canon sees that. In the last video, I talked about Canon dropping from the first position, #1 mirrorless camera sales for countless years, dropping to #2 with Sony coming in #1. I think a lot of that has to do with they didn't put enough effort, thought, R&D into their EOS M series. Their M50 stole the show. They sold a ton of the M50s, okay? And that's why Canon was the #1 mirrorless camera sales manufacturer forever. And then they came out with the Canon EOS M50 Mark II, and it was a dud. It was a complete dud. Sales dropped, hence Sony took over that #1 position because Sony didn't have a lot of cameras in 2020, but it didn't matter, okay? Canon dropped the ball when it came to the M50 Mark II. That's my personal opinion, and I'm going to stick by it. Anyways, and that could have been a strategic thing that they were doing. They're saying, you know what, we might need to get rid of this, all right? We don't know. I don't think that the M series is going anywhere as of yet, but we can tell by the Canon M50 Mark II, there was definitely a reduction in R&D in comparison to the last release or the first release, right? I think that Nikon possibly saw the writing on the wall early or earlier than many. And the reason I say that is Nikon discontinued their Coolpix line, right? That is their point and shoot line. I think it was like 2018 or something, going into 2019, whatever. Basically, they discontinued that. Now, they also, which I found fascinating, in 2019, I think it was, they ended up canceling their DL line. Now, that was a point and shoot that they were going to come out with that was going to compete with Sony's RX10 or whatever it was. But literally weeks before going live, they canceled it. Like, there was cameras out there. There was these DLs out there in the wild for testing. I've seen videos, and they literally just shut it down. Can you imagine the R&D money and the production money and the manufacturing money and all of this that just went poof into smoke when they decided to cancel the DL line? But it was probably a smart decision because as of today, it would be dead or getting there. Right? So maybe Nikon was onto something here, all right? Maybe they're onto something. So anyways, guys, I want to know your thoughts. What do you think is going on with the market? What do you think with this reduction happening that will most likely see under 8 million cameras sold as of 2021? What do you think? What do you think will happen? How will this affect the larger camera manufacturers, right? Sony, Canon, and Nikon. How do you think it will affect them? And what do you think Panasonic will do with their GH line? Okay, will they continue with it with the Micro Four Thirds? Or maybe they'll up it to APS-C, possibly? And continue down APS-C and full frame? We see Fujifilm, they didn't even go full frame. They stuck with APS-C and went straight to medium format. Okay, they were probably the smartest out of all of them and didn't get into the bloodbath of the full frame mirrorless wars that everyone else has. So kudos to Fujifilm. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've gotten even a little bit out of it, please give this video a thumbs up. Click this little bell icon up there if you desire to see my videos when they come out, or if you want to be notified when I go live. Also, put those comments in the comment area below this video. Let's talk about this. And when you're done there, head over to our creative Discord server over at community.JCristina.com. Once again, community.JCristina.com, an awesome place to talk tech, to talk video, photo, whatever you want to talk about. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there worldwide that just love to speak about all of this stuff. And I am there all the time, so you can directly interact with me if you so desire. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That would be awesome. And as a subscriber, and for making it to the end of this video, thank you so much. Use promo code YT20 at checkout. Once again, promo code YT20 at checkout, and you will get 20% off everything that's in your shopping cart. That's not one thing, that is everything. Once again, promo code YT20. Thank you so much once again for being here this morning. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.